Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session on streamlining editorial collaboration and managing multi-format book production. My name's Simone Hammer. I'm from Lumina Datamatics, and I'm joined today by an exceptional panel of industry leaders from Sage, Wiley, and Lumina Datamatics. Together, we'll look at key drivers for multi-format book publishing. We'll discuss the role of technology in collaborative ecosystems, and we'll share practical insights for overcoming challenges and harnessing opportunities in today's book publishing. Now, it's a topic that has huge scope for practical application, and it affects different publishers in different ways. So I'm sure many of you in the audience will want to ask your own questions. So please do use the Q&A button in the Zoom function to submit those questions. We'll cover as many questions as we can in the time available. But if we don't get around to answering all of your questions, we'll follow up with you over email after the event. Also, just to let you know, the session is being recorded, and we'll share a link to the recording with everybody who's registered for this session after the event. Before we dive into today's topic, just a little bit of background about Lumina Datamatics for those of you who haven't worked with us before. Lumina Datamatics are a strategic partner in providing content services and technology solutions to publishers and content providers from around the world. Our journey began in 1975, and we've since gone from strength to strength. We now have a global workforce of over 7,500 employees across India, the Philippines, the US, Germany, and the UK. And we're proud that in recent years, the Lumina family has been joined by esteemed brands Diacritech, T&Q Tech, and Sunrise Setting, who really represent the depth and breadth of our services and technology solutions. Together, we work with publishers across all segments, and our clients include 8 out of the 10 biggest publishers. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our panel. We have Shirley Griffith, Senior Director, Head of School at Wiley, Australia and New Zealand. Good evening to you, Shirley. I know it's very late in your day, so thank you for joining us.
Hi, Simone, and everyone.
And then we have Eric Garner, Director of Books Production at Sage. Eric is joining us from the US West Coast, so it's really early for you, Eric.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Mahesh Balakrishnan. Mahesh is Head of New Product Development and Strategic Initiatives at Lumina Datamatics. Welcome, Mahesh. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Simon, and hello, everybody.
And unfortunately, our fourth panelist, Stacey Scott, Head of Accessibility from Taylor & Francis, is not able to join us today. She sends her apologies. Stacey's been traveling, and unfortunately her schedule got disrupted due to recent bad weather conditions. So we think she is actually en route back to the UK as we speak. And we wish her safe travels and hope to have her again as a speaker in a future webinar. So let's get started. In today's fast-paced publishing landscape, the demand for multi-format book releases is really reshaping how editorial and production teams work. As digital-first strategies become the norm, publishers are often under enormous pressure to deliver new content faster than ever and without sacrificing quality or author relationships or innovative product design. So let's hear from our publishers, and we'll start with Shirley. Shirley, how would you describe the current state of book publishing, particularly in terms of workflow complexity, format demands, business challenges? What pressures and opportunities do you see?
Thanks, Simone. Well, just for context, I work in education publishing, and we serve teachers and students predominantly at the secondary or high school level. And in education publishing, the transformations that we've experienced over the past decade go far beyond format. The industry has moved from being providers of predominantly hard copy textbooks to innovators delivering sophisticated, flexible online courses that meet the needs of teachers and learners, both inside classrooms and as individuals in offline learning situations. And this has meant that publishers today need expertise well beyond subject matter expertise. We need to be skilled in multimedia production, interactive learning design, learning analytics, and much more besides. And we need to deliver all of this faster than ever before without compromising the quality or the pedagogical integrity that education publishing demands. To address the issue of complexity, I guess in my role, I see every day, I see this complexity every day, but I would say it falls into a few key areas for us. Workflow complexity comes from the expectation that we can be faster to market than ever, that authors who, for us, by and large, are not professional authors, they're highly experienced authors, but it's not their full-time job, that they can adapt to writing for different delivery formats, and that editors and production teams can develop genuine systems thinking, that is, understanding how their decisions ripple through the entire production process. Format demands have required a fundamental mindset shift. We design for digital first. So every interactive feature, every piece of media needs to be designed intentionally for the online experience. But we also have to produce high quality printed texts for those not yet ready to leave print behind. So holding these two timelines or these two truths simultaneously while keeping the product coherent and consistent for the learner, which is mainly our audience, requires a completely different way of thinking about what you're producing and why. The opportunities, though, so the challenges are real, but the opportunities are also real and they are exciting. And I think technology overall is enabling us to create richer, more personalized experiences than ever before. And, this is something that I'm personally super excited about. And something I think that does deliver real opportunity for the industry.
That's some really great insights, Shirley, and I can see there is a lot of opportunity and demands at the same time. It must be difficult to juggle. Over to you, Eric. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Simone and Shirley. Actually, some of my points kind of echo some of the points that Shirley made. That I too think one of the biggest opportunities right now is continuing to improve how we manage multi-format production. Kind of what Shirley touched on is that the reality is that the same core content increasingly needs to support print, ebook, courseware, digital platforms, and accessible outputs, which has really pushed us to think kind of differently about how content is structured from the very beginning. So we made a lot of progress toward structured content overall. And by that, I mean having clearer content models in place, also stronger use of design templates, more consistency in style tagging of content, and greater use of automation. And what we've found is that to successfully create multiple outputs from a single content source, that it's ultimately about putting the right content structures and standards in place at the very beginning.
Yeah, some excellent points there, and I'm sure our audience can already relate to a lot of the points that you're mentioning here. So we'll just take a quick pause here for a brief audience poll. Let's see if we can bring that up on screen. Oh, I'm looking for poll number 1. Right. Okay, I'm not sure. I can't see it yet. Oh, okay. Coming up now. So we'd like to ask our audience, what is your biggest pain point getting in the way of effective collaboration? So if we can just all take a couple of seconds just to answer that question. I can see this response is still coming in. So we've got answer options like communication gaps, too many communication channels, insufficient metadata, version control, adapting to new workflows, time and budgetary constraints. I think they're still coming. So, I think we've got most of the answers so I'll just end the poll and we'll share our results on screen. Okay, I do hope everybody can see this. It's great. So I think we have a reasonably clear winner here, adapting to new workflows and technologies, and then fairly even spread across all the others. The time and budgetary constraints is obviously up there as well, which I think is something we'll probably all struggle with a lot of the times. So thank you to our audience for this. That's been really interesting to see. And I think we will touch upon most of these points in the following conversations. So now I'd love to hear a few examples from our panelists on the role of collaboration in your workflows and what challenges you've had to overcome or maybe are still working on overcoming. Eric, let's start with you this time.
Sure, thanks. Yeah. So for collaboration, I think one thing that's really helped when there are multiple team members who are involved in reviewing content is having a shared platform like Xedit Pro with Lumina, where everyone is working from the same version of the content and can see their updates in real time. And I think that shared visibility just makes collaboration much smoother so that rather than having to juggle multiple files and versions, everyone kind of stays aligned around, that single source of truth. And I think that transparency kind of removes a lot of friction and helps projects move forward more efficiently.
Good point. Shirley, what's your experience with collaboration?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the survey as well, just thinking about that challenge of adapting to new workflows. And, because of course, technology alone doesn't drive change, people do. And I guess I keep coming back to that. And that sits very firmly in this space of collaboration. Collaboration is a human activity, and doing it very effectively definitely helps. In our workflows, collaboration touches every part of the process, from internal editorial and production teams, authors, through to authors, freelancers, our technology partners, etc. All parts of our business need to collaborate really carefully. I think one of our biggest challenges when we were beginning to adapt to these new workflows, one of our biggest challenges, and I suspect many people on the call will recognize this, that everyone in the chain kind of knew their own role really well, but very few people had visibility of the full end-to-end journey. And in some ways you might think, well, is that really necessary? But in a world where you're trying to get to multiple outputs from some sort of centralized content, it probably is really important. And without that, things, got lost in translation, decisions got made in isolation, and the cumulative effect of that was inefficiency and inconsistency and delays and, the usual things that can happen. The most significant step that we took was finding a technology partner willing to go on that journey with us and not just sell us a solution, but that partnership meant that we ourselves could influence how the technology was developed to serve our needs while simultaneously learning how we needed to adapt our own processes. So it was that kind of dual partnership. And, one very practical outcome, I might just share an example of that collaboration with our partners, was we redesigned our print page layouts to mirror the online designs. And that sounds really simple, but it removes significant friction, it reduced costs, created consistency for our teams and our learners across different formats. And, it also required us to invest heavily in training and retraining our people, helping them develop systems thinking. And I think that's critical so that they could understand how their individual decisions impacted the whole. And I guess if I was just to kind of summarize that in light of collaboration and that theme of collaboration, I think probably the single most important ingredient in making collaboration work across teams or across organizations wasn't a process or a tool at the end of the day. It was trust. When you're stepping into unknown territory together with partners, external, internal, etc., so many different stakeholders, it only works when everybody involved is willing to be open, honest, and share the risk and the accountability equally, and that becomes kind of visible. And hopefully we've got the tools to help us make that a visible part of the process. But yeah, that's probably how we have approached, this very important issue of collaboration.
That sounds like you've been on a very interesting journey, Shirley, and just focusing in a bit more on technology now. I'd like to ask Mahesh. I know you'll have a lot to say on this topic. Mahesh, in your experience, how can technology help to optimize collaboration?
Thank you so much, Simon. And I think Eric and Shirley touched upon a lot of important points when they had explained about their journey with collaboration and technology. So to add upon what they had just mentioned, we came up with a platform called Exedit Pro, which helps in various stakeholders within the production or editorial cycle of a book to collaboratively work over the cloud using a single source. So that means that the number of touch points that a user has to go through when they create a book or content is reduced tremendously, which means you have higher quality and better efficiency as far as turnaround time is concerned. So that's something which our platform brings in natively. Since our solution sits over the cloud, so collaborative environment is built in right from the word go. So which means the content comes along with you wherever you go. So it's easy for people to collaborate over the cloud, be it the editor, be it the designer, or be it the person who is managing delivery of the final content. So all of them work in the same environment collaboratively and successfully. One of the key things that we ensured that is we didn't want to change the publisher's workflow in a very drastic manner. Because if we go ahead and come up with new workflows, which is going to change the publisher's workflow drastically, then implementation becomes a whole new challenge, and the amount of time needed for training is also very high. So that way, we came up with a solution which works for both the publisher as well as for us. And at the same time, we also ensure that the cost of implementing the solution is also kept at the bare minimum.
Some really good points there. Thank you, Mahesh. Before we continue, I think we have just about enough time for another quick poll. If I can just ask for that to be put on screen. Just a second. Yeah. Hopefully everybody can see that again. So our question now is, what is your main barrier to reusing and repurposing content across formats and publications? There's no right or wrong answers. We'll just sort of want to get a sense of what people are most struggling with. I'll just leave this open for another couple of seconds. I can see results are still coming in. Just give it a few more seconds. And the results should appear on screen now. Let's see what we've got. That's interesting, actually. I think we've again got a clear winner. And this time that's inconsistent design formats and lack of structured content. I guess as a panel, we're not surprised about this, I guess. We kind of expected that to come up quite high. Time and budgetary constraints, again, is also in there. So very, very interesting results. Oh, I think I didn't share them. So, okay. So thanks again to the audience for your participation here. Let's talk a little bit about some of the most common pitfalls in multi-format editing and production and how they can be avoided. I think we've probably already touched a little bit upon that topic, but let's see. Creating and maintaining multiple formats adds a lot of complexity. And Shirley, let's start with you again on this one. What can publishers do to minimize the impact this has on time to market, and how can they make sure they use their available resources in the most effective way?
Yeah, it's interesting looking at that poll result because the inconsistency across formats is definitely something where we've seen some pitfalls as well. Probably in my experience, the most common pitfalls that we've seen fall into a few categories. First, there's that kind of duplication of effort, so handling the same content multiple times across different formats. Before we moved to digital first workflows, print PDFs were edited separately to HTML, assets were reviewed in isolation. It was inefficient for us and created very poor alignment between formats for our learners. And then there was that secondly, there was that kind of inconsistent content across formats, updates or corrections applied to one format, but not another. And for us, with the age group that we publish for, that, can cause real confusion. And that confusion has genuine consequences for learning continuity and for understanding amongst the age group that we publish for. Probably third, and I think maybe this is underestimated sometimes, is that notion of treating certain content requirements as an afterthought rather than as a pitfall, rather than as an integral part of the workflow. So, for example, metadata is a good example of that. Decisions about metadata need to be made very early in a project to provide maximum flexibility downstream. Whether they're accessibility related or otherwise, and they're not things that you can bolt on at the end, and so there's a complexity there or a pitfall that many people fall into, and we certainly fell into at times. Understanding that these and many other pitfalls besides the ones that I've highlighted, understanding these helps us to minimize their impact, and we've found that when we find the right technical partner who has the experience in addressing these kinds of pitfalls and also addressing in our people, these have been really important in helping us to overcome any of these sort of pitfalls. And by the way, I think as with any industry, there'll be new pitfalls to come, but we've now got quite a bit of experience in dealing with the early ones at least. So I would encourage everybody to stay faithful to trying to find solutions. But developing that genuine systems thinking that includes considerations around accessibility, etc. Developing that systems thinking across our teams so that everybody understands how their decisions ripple through the entire production process is just critical to, I think, managing pitfalls and minimizing their impact. Probably would be the most important thing from my point of view.
And I believe it really is a continuous learning journey. As you said, we will fall into pitfalls and we'll encounter new ones. It is the learning we take away from this. Eric, what pitfalls have you encountered?
Yeah, I think one pitfall that we I would say a pitfall that we avoided was internal stakeholders not being on the same page, and in order to achieve like the automation that we were looking for, there was a lot of internal collaboration amongst teams to agree on design templates, standardizing upstream processes, and working together to implement those process improvements so that we were able to automate that led to us being able to automate parts of our XML workflow using, as Mahesh said, Xedit Pro, and so that once the content was structured correctly, Xedit Pro allowed us to generate the XML and move that content into our courseware and digital platforms much more efficiently. And so that saved us time and helped ensure consistency across our formats. But what was really key was avoiding the pitfall of internal teams not being on the same page. But we were able to work together closely from the very beginning to achieve that.
Thanks, Sarah. Yes, that's great to hear that. Yeah, our technology has helped you to be more efficient there. Mahesh, do you want to add your thoughts as well?
Absolutely. And to add on to what Eric and Shirley said, the key enabler for a multi-format production system is single source publishing. And that's where Xedit Pro thrives. Because Xedit Pro stores all the content in a structured XHTML format within Xedit Pro. And from that format, it produces various other formats. It could be a print PDF, it could be a web PDF, it could be EPUB, it could be a common cartridge, or it could be an XML or various flavors of XML. All of these are produced from that single source. And if you get that single source maintained well within your platform and your technology, then I think you have won more than half your battle. And added to that, the way you manage your assets. So assets could be your images, it could be your audio or video or animation or widgets that you might use in your digital product. All of this should be stored and accessible by the single source at any point of time so that you can generate these various outputs seamlessly at any point of time. So once that is enabled, then your multi-format production journey becomes a lot more easier. And that's where Xedit Pro thrives because it works on single source. It's got its own digital asset management system, which ensures that the content is seamlessly transferred and produced in accordance with the guidelines for each of those formats. So that's where our solution really comes as a game changer. It also brings in the accessibility functionality. Everything which is stored within Extended Pro is well defined and well structured. And it also has inbuilt capabilities of producing alt text. It's got inbuilt capabilities of producing tagging structure, taxonomy tagging. All of this can be done automatically within Extended Pro, which enables it to produce accessible digital formats, be it an accessible PDF, EPUB, XML, or other formats by a click of a button from within Extended Pro. So if you're looking for multi-format production, then Extended Pro is a solution that you should seriously consider about.
Thanks, Mahesh. We've touched a little bit on accessibility. Now, unfortunately, Stacey's not here today, but Shirley and Eric, do you have any brief thoughts on accessibility? Shirley, if we start with you.
Yeah, I'll have a couple of, well, I have lots of thoughts about, but I suppose probably what I'd say is that critically accessibility isn't something that can be retrofitted to a project. It has to be built into the workflows from the very beginning of every project. So considerations around accessibility. And by the time we're in production, these aren't afterthoughts, they're integral to the design, but it is critical to have the tools that make it possible, such as Exedit Pro, for example. And what I find the most compelling about considerations around accessibility is that multimodal learning tools designed with accessibility in mind will improve the experience for all learners. In our case, our audience is learners, and not just those with specific needs. When you design for the most complex needs in your audience, you almost always make something better for everybody. So I think there are really strong reasons why considerations around accessibility are just critical. And then, for anyone on the call who's finding that a bit daunting, there are tools out there that can make that journey and that desire to be truly accessible a reality.
Thank you, Shirley. Eric, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just kind of reiterate the point that Shirley made, that the most effective approach that we've seen is integrating accessibility right from the beginning, rather than trying to retrofit it later. And that starts with clear authoring guidelines, strong editorial standards, and building in accessibility checks directly into the editorial and production workflows.
Just staying on the topic of technology for a little longer. We've talked about challenges and possible solutions, and I reckon we all agree that there's rarely a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to choosing and implementing new technology. In fact, the choice of tools and platforms can feel really overwhelming. So I'd like to ask Mahesh, how can vendors help client teams with the adoption of new processes and tools, and what should clients expect from a vendor, and also what help does vendors need from their clients, both in terms of short and long-term collaboration?
Sure. Thank you so much, Simon. So the first thing that, as Lumina Datamatics, what we do is to work with our customers as partners. So we don't engage with our customer as a vendor. We work as a partner, as an extended arm, and we provide our knowledge and experience that we have gained over the past so many years to our customers. We go ahead and try and understand the current workflow. We audit, we try and find gaps within the workflow, and then come up with a clear plan in which our solutions can be put in place so that the customer will not have any interruption in their current work, because whatever work they're doing right now should go on the way it is going on at the moment. It should only get better, but and not get worse because we have come up with a new technology in place. So this audit makes it very key. We identify these gaps, and then we try and tighten those gaps with the technology that we provide and with added automation. So what we do is try, as I said right in the start, we don't try and alter the customer's workflow entirely. We try to keep it linear, and we ensure that the workflow is familiar with the customer. And then we try to put in our solutions in place. So what we as a next step we would do is we try and see how we can build a single source solution around the problem that the problem statements that the customer has got, and then how to provide multiple output from this single source. Once we establish that, then bringing in various design to the content structure becomes very simple, because once you get the content in a very structured manner within our solution, then producing various designs from our solution becomes even more easier. And once that is put in place, then we would go about rolling our solution. We start off with the pilot project. We ensure that pilot project is worked in tandem with the customer. We have key product managers engaged from the customer to work on the solution, so that both Lumina and the customer knows what the workflows are, what the challenges are, and the solution that we have put in place. So once the pilot is done, then we roll it on full scale, and that's how been our approach with every customer from the time we started rolling out solutions for our customer. We also define the roles within the customer in the customer's workflow, ensure that each person within the role has the right amount of access to the platform, because if it is too much, then it's overwhelming. If it is too less, then it is not enough for a particular role to work with. So we ensure we understand all those through that audit, and ensure that the solution what is rolled out is functional for every stakeholder within the workflow. And in addition to this, we have continuous meetings with our customers. We understand what their requirements are, because requirements keep evolving every day with every new customer. Our end customer has or new products that they come up with. So we have these technical discussions with our customer. We also listen to the challenges that they face, and then build on those challenges within our platform, and ensure that these challenges are addressed within our platform, so that they have a smooth workflow throughout the life cycle of any product. So that's how we that's how we target any new customer, and that's how we try to succeed with the customer.
Thanks, Mahesh, for sharing those insights. It really sounds like it is important to work in partnership and to get a really good understanding of what the client needs, and then from there to adapt and build a system that works. From your experience, Shirley, what would you add?
Yeah, in my experience, and when we were setting about to choose a technology solution, the most important criterion for us wasn't features or price. It was actually vision. And, our vendor didn't need to have all the answers, but they did need to have a genuine willingness to help us achieve our goals. And I think a common mistake I'd warn against actually is choosing on price or being seduced by the promise of a platform that can do everything. it's better to take the time, I think, to ensure that our roadmaps and goals genuinely align, because you're entering ultimately into a long-term relationship, not buying a product as such. And I think on what clients need to bring to that relationship, and maybe this is something that vendors don't talk about a lot, but I think the client also has, we have responsibilities too, to be able to clearly communicate our requirements and to articulate them precisely, so that all of the elements that Mahesh was just describing actually can be put in place, to the satisfaction of both the publisher and the partner. And I think a willingness on behalf of ourselves to develop new skills, that we need to come to the party and we need to acknowledge that we don't have all the skills necessarily in this space. And so a willingness to come to the party and I think not to have an expectation that everything will work perfectly straight out of the box, but that we can work through challenges together. And I think that's what separates successful implementations from ones that can fail. I think senior management engagement matters too. Mahesh mentioned having relationships and access points set up for different levels within each organization. I think that's super important. And just so that the challenges can be understood, support can be offered, and solutions can be found if needed. And probably I would say in the long term, the relationship is sustained by exactly what I mentioned at the beginning, which is trust. And there are practical elements to that, of course, which is, things like training and showcasing new capabilities and sharing ideas. But at the heart of it, a vendor-client relationship has to be a genuine partnership, as Mahesh said. That when feedback is given, heard, and acted upon by everyone, by both parties, and that can happen in a genuine belief that each has the other's best interest at heart. So, I would shy away from thinking about contractual arrangements and consider partnership arrangements, if that makes sense.
It certainly does. So yeah, it really is about working together and being open and transparent and sort of work towards a shared goal almost. Eric, does that match your experience as well?
Yeah, same here. It really comes down to partnership. For example, in our experience working with Mahesh and the Lumina team, like that partnership has been really hands-on. They provided like tailored training for our teams, technical troubleshooting when needed, and just available for as like a customer service, and so all that while being open to feedback as well. So so all of that kind of ties into the to having that kind of partnership, and if you have that kind of partnership, that helps ensure that the that what you're looking to achieve is successful.
Right, thank you. I think before we open up the floor for questions from the audience, we've got just about enough time for one last quick question to you all. We'd like to share some tips to our audience that they can take away from this session. So what's one practical change? It could be a workflow tweak, a tool adoption, or a team habit that you've seen. What's one change that you've seen make a real difference in practice? And what tips could you give to our audience? So I just ask each one of you, and just a really brief answer if you can, please. Eric, you're on there right now, so let's start with you.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, I think one change that we've seen make a really noticeable impact is really just standardizing the manuscript or the content preparation like much earlier in the workflow. This helps ensure content is production ready earlier and reduces a lot of like manual cleanup and time spent later in the process. And I know that this is pretty cliche, but it's true that clean inputs help produce clean outputs. So yeah, I'll just add that point.
Great point, and I think it can't be said often enough. Great point. Shirley?
Eric stole my point.
Oh.
No, I could make plenty of points, but I think if you're asking me to sort of keep it brief and to, you know, to choose to choose a practical example that made a real difference to us, I think that would have to be investing early in a genuine partnership with a technology vendor, and not shopping around for solutions, but finding that partner willing to go on the journey together. And I think that ultimately is the most important step in the process, because everything else kind of comes from that. It comes from the learnings that you'll have together. It'll come from all the decisions you make about almost everything else will come out of that step. So for us, I think that would be, if I had to choose one, and if Eric had stolen my one, I would.
I think that they're both excellent points, and they're both extremely relevant. Mahesh, can you add a third one?
Yeah, probably breaking down your goals and then putting them into trying to achieve them in a phased manner will also help, because if you're trying to achieve everything at one go, might lead to failure. So
Yeah.
breaking down your goals is also very key when you're going up with a new technology.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that as well. Thank you, Mahesh. Let's see. This concludes our panel conversation. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience. So I'll just see if I can see if there's anything in the chat. Right, let's see. Right, okay, so we have a question. This all sounds fantastic, but is it affordable for small publishers with 60 to 70 books in a very niche market with low sales per year? Mahesh, if you want to take this one, just to talk a little bit around your scale and how we work.
Sure. So be it a small publisher or be it a large publisher, we have multiple models in which we go about engaging our platform. We have a services model. If you go with the services model, then you actually do not invest anything in the platform. The platform comes free as far as Lumina provides service to you. Or if you say, no, that's not the model which I want to go to, then we have solutions where it could range from licensing model to usage fee model. So there are multiple models in, which we have, and these models will definitely fit based on the size of the publisher. So you don't have to enormously invest into a platform if you engage us. In fact, your capex will be almost zero if you go with our solution.
Right, thank you, Mahesh, for the answer. And if there's any further questions around these topics, I'll display contact details later on as well. But do feel free to approach us with any specific discussions you'd like to have. I'm just seeing, I think this time for another question. What role do you see automation and AI play in the editing and production process? I think maybe Mahesh, if you could answer that very briefly, and then we can see if Shirley and Eric have some thoughts on the AI side of things as
So,
well.
so as far as AI is concerned for editing content, I don't think AI is evolved enough to do it all by itself because uh, there are chances that it might hallucinate things, over-edit the content uh, where it is not needed to be edited at all. So you should have an approach where you should again break down if the document is well written, then probably you can have AI to go ahead and do it, do the mechanical editing along with a few grammatical changes. But if it's anything more, then you should bring human in the loop. That's my advice as far as using AI for editing is concerned.
Mhm. We go, Shirley, some very quick thoughts on AI, or if Mahesh has covered it, then we'll move on to the
Yeah,
next
sure.
question.
I can add a little, maybe I don't know to the extent that it's helpful, but I guess when I think about AI and education publishing, I think about the two sides of our business that we're constantly trying to balance. On the one side, we have, the care for student learning. We need to produce engaging, highly interactive materials, ready for a variety of learning styles and opportunities. Our work requires a deep knowledge of instructional design and learning science and all of the complexity of human interaction and development. So it's kind of on the one side. And then on the other, we sort of, on the other side, we've got production workflows that are required to be efficient and deliver excellent quality in the quickest possible time frame, with schedules for us that are largely determined by an academic year. So therefore, the deadlines are removable, it's high stakes, and there's no margin for error. So we've kind of got these two sides. And I think for as long as I can remember, these two sides have been in tension. Quality and depth on the one hand, speed and efficiency on the other. And my dream is that AI might just be the tool that transforms our ability to marry these two sides of business in ways that are honestly beyond our current understanding. And that does kind of excite me. I don't know the answers, but I feel that's something to look forward to. So yeah, I'd see it as an opportunity.
Thanks, Shirley. Right, actually, we have another question. Do you have insights into what type of tagging output the standard large platforms have already? If a new partner joins your network, can they lean on those existing tagging offerings? I think that might be, again, a question for Mahesh.
Yeah, so there are standard tagging structures which are available in the market, and we support most of them. But saying that publishers have their own tagging structures too, and since we are into the business of single source publishing, adapting to new structures is not a problem because we already store the content in a very structured manner. So generating a new structure from this structure becomes a lot more easier. But saying that what is available in the market as standard open structures do take care of most of what is available as a requirement at the moment. So you might not have to really look outside or create your own structure. You can fit one of what is already available in the market.
Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you, Mahesh. Right, let's just see. Just give it a few more seconds to see if we get any more questions through from the audience. Okay, if not, then I think we'll be okay to close the session for today. Let me see. Sorry, technology. So yeah, I think we are sort of coming to the end of the session now. So I really just like to say thank you again to Shirley, Eric, and Mahesh for all the great insights that you've shared today. A couple of closing remarks. As you close out from Zoom, you should be directed to a brief survey. So please do share your thoughts about today's session if you have a few minutes. We really welcome everybody's feedback. And also if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, they'd be gratefully received. If anybody has any specific questions that they'd like to discuss with Lumina after this session, please do get in touch. I will try and share some contact details on screen. Let's see if this works. Okay. Right, so I'll just leave these details up here in case anybody would like to get in touch. But of course, if you already do work with Lumina, then just reach out to your Lumina account manager. So yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. It's been a great session. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you've joined us from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Fascinating.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.